In the last lesson, we took a form input from the user and we displayed the values the user had input in the student form. Suppose we want to modify the student form and we want to take another input from the student, and this is that whether the student is working or not. So what are the changes we will need to do? So let us have a look at that. So the first thing is we will go to our student form and we need another input. So let us define it. So we will say, let us say it is working and we want a checkbox from the user. So we will say input type is equal to checkbox, and let us say name we define is working, and we close it. So here we have defined, so another uh, input will be taken from the user, which is a checkbox working. Now remember, this needs to get mapped to student for these values to come in, because it got filled in into that object for student the last time we did it. So we will create another variable, and because this is a checkbox, we will map it to a boolean. So private boolean, and the name has to be the same. So we have declared a private boolean working. And what do we need for it? We will need that the getters and setters are defined. So again we will do the same thing, right click, insert code, getters and setters, and this time it is only showing boolean because the rest have been generated, and we will click on it and generate the getters and setters. So notice, in the case of boolean, for setter we are getting set working only, but in the case of getter, we instead of getting get working, we are getting is working. So in the case of boolean, the getter is working. Okay. So now that we have defined it, we will be able to get that value from the user. We also need to display it. So let us just add to our display h2, and let us say working st object dot working. So here, look at the beauty of all of this. We just defined it in our form, we defined it in our data model, and the rest is happening automatically. So in our controller, we do not need to change it because we are not showing anything specifically here, and this will work perfectly fine. So now let us just run it. We will run our project and let us see that it works fine. Let us just test it. So we have gotten our details, and let us say we call it as Bill Smith, age 33, course, let's call it say Angular, let's call it Android, and let's click on working. And if I submit the details, I get Bill Smith, age 33, course Android, and working true. Let me fill the form again. Now this time I am not clicking on working, and if I submit the details, I get a false. So here what we have been able to do is we have been able to add another field to a form, and we were able to run it very successfully. And what this also told us was how do we make changes, and the power of the system was very clear in our eyes, because we just made changes in two places. We made changes in the data model, which is student.java, and we made changes in the form so that the user could display, and in the views, so both the views, the input view and the display view. Now suppose we want to add another piece here, that if the student is working, we want to display a link that the student should enter the details of his job, of his or her job. So how do we do it? So now, because we are needing two different kinds of views now in this case, so one view would be where that link is displayed, and one view would be where that link is not displayed. So the easiest way to do it is we'll just make a copy of welcome.jsp. Let us just copy it and paste it. So we've gotten welcome1.jsp, and this welcome1.jsp is identical to welcome.jsp. And let us just make this change in welcome.jsp, and we will add, say, h3, and let us give it a link a href is equal to, and let us give this name of the project, which is Edufect Spring 1 slash, and let us say we want to go to working form.htm. So we want to display the values in working form.htm, and we will say enter your job details. So what we are saying is that if the student was working, we will show welcome1.jsp and show this link, and if the student was not working, we will show welcome.jsp. Now because we have created working one, so let us just create that JSP and let's call it working form. And right now let's just say, we will just add here and say enter your job details. So we're not creating the form, but we're just creating the page, and so that we are able to test that this gets displayed. So now that we have done this part of it, let us see what change we will need to make in the controller. So in the controller, once the post comes in, what should we do? So what we will need to do is, depending upon the value of the working, we will need to do different stuff. So let's say if post st, that's the object we are getting from the form, dot is working. So now if post st dot is working, which means if this student is working, what do we need to do? We will need to display our view will be welcome_1, and if the student is not working, then what do we need to do? And we will say else, and what do we need to do? We will create model and view equal to new model and view, and in this case we will go to the view welcome. m1 dot add object st object comma post st, and in this case we will again return m1. So we have created, let's just for simplicity call this one m2, so that there is no confusion with the earlier m1. So we will return m2. So when we return m2, it will go to the view welcome1, and when we go to when the student is not working, it will show the view welcome. We also need to now handle that if the student clicks on what we are saying here in welcome1 working form.htm, we need to handle it. So what will we do for that? We will just create another controller. So request mapping, or we'll create another request mapping, value is equal to slash working form. And what do we do in this case? We will say public model and view working form, and what do we do in this case? We will just create a model and view, model and view m1 is equal to new model and view, And what should be the view? The view is working form. So we are calling working form and we will just return M1. So this should suffice for us because we are not displaying any parameters or attributes in working form so far. So let us now run it and test it. So when we run the project, and let us wait for the browser to come up, and we've gotten it. So let's now enter the values. So we entered Bill Smith last time, age 33. Course we gave to Bill Smith was a hibernate, and Bill Smith is working. So in this case, it should show us the link, and we have gotten the link. So we've gotten Bill Smith 33 hibernate working is true, and we get enter your job details. Let us click on it, and we get an error. And what does the error say? Did not find a representation of this file. So let us now fix this error. Can we fix this error that we have gotten in this case? So what is the error that we got in this case, and let us see if we are able to fix it. So what do we show in this case? So we have a request mapping working in this case. We have our dispatcher servlet. It did not do anything. So why did it give us this error? So that is the question we will need to solve. So let us just go back and look at our controller. Our controller is working for working form, and the model and view is again working form. So the controller looks perfectly fine to me. The other thing we need to do is let us just look at the URL we have specified, and what is the URL, and the error is that they should get the. So this is very important. So this error was deliberately important so that we explain this slash, and let us now run it, because this is a very common error which a lot of students commit. So let's give it values again, hibernate, and let me check it, and let me submit the details. So now we are getting enter your job details, and now when I click enter your job details, I get the form. Let us do it again, and this time let me not check it. So what will happen in this case? In this case, it should not show us a link, and which is what's happened. Let's test it again. Let me click it and make some changes here. So age is 29. Let's say course is Android. And now when I submit it, it's showing me the right values. And when I click on enter your job details, it's taking me to enter your job details. So this error is a very common error, and you should also take care of it.